Good evening. It's Monday, July 6th, 6:25 p.m. and Worldometers has just reset. Let's dive right in. For today's tally, USA is number 1 at 50K, India 22K. For second place, Brazil 21K. Monday is sort of like the eye of the storm between the weekend and catching up to the actual numbers, which is tomorrow. So still not expecting high numbers, but they are still high regardless. Top deaths was Brazil 66, India second 474, USA third 378. I would really want to know what will happen tomorrow, because tomorrow should be the first. Cause usually Tuesday is the first major day in the week when it comes to numbers, so we'll see about that. Who didn't report today? Let's see. So Cameroon is strange. Cameroon never reports, but if you look up their day-by-day history, they show their numbers, and they're all over the place. Actually, let's go to them just to see what I'm talking about. Their graph makes very little sense. It exploded and then it just kind of came to a standstill, as you can see right here. And that's let's see. Yeah, the graph makes no sense. I mean, like I said yesterday, you can't really trust worldometers anymore. There's so many inconsistencies and so many things that are strange going on behind the scenes. You just can't really trust them. And as you saw, there's a lot of other people that didn't report. Let's quickly go through them. Besides Cameroon, it was Ethiopia, Guinea, a lot of African countries not really reporting. We got Nicaragua not reporting. Congo, Diamond Princess, from way back in February, or was it March? They still got 48 active cases, 4 critical. Now that's outdated. They are not updating this number. They just blacked it out. We will never know how bad the end game of these cases were, because they kind of left it in the dark. If we go closely at the USA's cases, so today LA County started reporting again. They made a report from the weekend. We'll get into that later. I know Texas was, let me see, yesterday or today, I suppose. Number 1 was Texas at 9,000. That is a record high for Texas. They're competing with Florida now. California is back with almost 7K, record breaking to worldometers. Florida 6K, Arizona at 3K. Top deaths: California, Texas, Florida, New Jersey, New York. Again, New York is still in trouble. Don't believe anybody is saying that they're out of the clear yet, because they're still in trouble. And top news today, 7/6. Israel begins locking down again after surge from second wave. National Hockey League. 35 players in total have tested positive for the virus since June 8. The opening of Phase 2 small group activities. 23 have tested positive and returning to their NHL practice facilities, while another 12 players tested positive outside of the Phase 2 protocol. De Blasio blames New York City weekend violence on coronavirus, vows to double down to keep the city safe. De Blasio held a press conference Monday after a weekend of violence across New York City that left at least 8 people dead and more than 44 people shot and injured. There is not just one cause for something like this. Meanwhile, New York City Police Department Chief Terrence Monahan weighed in on the violence, agreeing that the surge in violence over the weekend was due to a combination of things. Now, you know that the virus has severe neurological effects on people's brains. New York has a lot of cases. I think that the COVID zombie might be, up to some tomfoolery in New York, because this violence is unprecedented. We have a lot of unexplained violence going on all over the world, like Sweden, as such, where a lot of random, unprovoked acts of violence, stabbings, deaths, suicides, people calling for welfare checks once the personnel come in, they get attacked. There's a lot of violence going on, and I don't think it really comes down to the quarantine. I think it really comes down to the what this virus is doing to the brain. Failure to abide by the 14-day coronavirus quarantine for those who test positive can lead to fines up to $500 per violation, according to the Alabama Department of Public Health. Now, it's an ongoing problem that nobody's talking about, that people who test positive continue to go out, whether because they want to party or whether because they want to intentionally spread the virus. And Alabama at least is doing something about it. I mean, it's basically a slap on the wrist, honestly. Madagascar reimposes lockdown in capital as coronavirus cases surge. The coronavirus lockdown prevented 1.85 million Indian women from getting an abortion. A dozen coronavirus cases tied to Detroit, Michigan strip club. Laughable. Lyme disease outbreak potentiality. Experts fear bad tick season amid the pandemic. Some symptoms of Lyme disease that are similar to the virus include fever, cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, diarrhea, chills, repeated shaking with chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, new loss of taste or smell. And it's kind of odd that Lyme disease is so similar to this pandemic's virus in terms of symptoms. I didn't realize that till today. After having 3 players test positive for coronavirus last week, the Sacramento Kings received some more bad news on Sunday. The Kings are shutting down their practice facility due to a positive test within the team's traveling party. Now, sports is being severely crippled because of this ongoing pandemic. Virginia, over 200 people may have been exposed to coronavirus at a Planet Fitness. Why can't people just learn to work out at home? Honestly, not that hard. Philadelphia gyms were given the green light to reopen, but after making the necessary changes, they were now denied due to surge in new cases. Cases surge at GM's Arlington, Texas truck plant. Now, we've seen the meat processing plant outbreaks. We've seen the nursery home outbreaks, the psychiatric homes outbreaks, the daycare school outbreaks. Now we're seeing car plant outbreaks. It doesn't end. Fears of handling infected cash is accelerating the shift to a cashless society. Second region of Spain goes into lockdown after a surge in cases. Over 300 children catch COVID-19 in Texas daycares. Over 900 cases of the virus have been reported at daycare centers in the state of Texas in the last month and a half. At least 307 children and 643 staff members have tested positive for the deadly disease in the state's childcare facilities since the reopening in mid-May. This is very alarming. Now, don't wait for the mass media to educate you on this virus. Do your own independent research. If you do, you will find things that they won't report till 4, 5, 6 months later. Immunity to the coronavirus is fragile and short-lived, immunologist warns. It is not a safe bet to rely on immunity to the virus as a strategy for coping with the pandemic, adding that herd immunity is probably never going to work. Now, we already knew this. It's old news. You can't have herd immunity anywhere. The UK was one of the worst hit areas in the world because they tried herd immunity. And what happened? Instead of keeping a controlled situation where people tried to get the disease the least way possible, they all rushed outside to go get it, and this overwhelmed the healthcare system. So herd immunity is a myth. It is not going to work. Don't believe what Boris Johnson says. New Zealand was actually contrasted towards the UK because they actually tried to protect the public. And they worked, though they're, slowly gaining more cases. But the thing is, you want to slow the outbreak as much as possible so that the health system can control it and not overflow. But because everybody's just going out there, practically everybody's doing herd immunity at this point. Because they're not listening, they don't believe the virus is real, they're not wearing masks, they think it's about their freedoms, and they're too stubborn to stay in. And now what happens? People are getting sick too fast, which means people are going to the hospital in too large numbers, which means that the hospitals get overwhelmed. And that's what we're seeing. It is not a safe bet to rely on immunity to the virus as a strategy for coping with the pandemic, adding that herd immunity is probably never going to work. And I stand by that statement. Anybody who's watched my videos knows that immunity to this virus does not last that long, and we still have no promising vaccine. It's going to take a long time, if not months, years, to have a vaccine. Danny Altman, a professor of sorry, it's a new word to me. Danny Altman, professor of immunology, said that in towns and cities where there have been coronavirus infections, only 10% to 15% of the population was likely to be immune. And immunity to this thing looks rather fragile. It looks like some people might have antibodies for a few months and then it might wane. So it's not looking like a safe bet, he said. It's a very deceitful virus, and immunity to it is not very confusing and rather short-lived. Miami-Dade closing down gyms, party venues, dining at restaurants as coronavirus cases rise. So what we're seeing is the entire world going back into lockdown. It was inevitable. It was due to happen because of the foolishness of the people of the world. This is a virus that requires 100% human participation in keeping it contained, and most people are failing. Most people are failing, and a lot of people that know, who are in high places, are too concerned with the economy, and they too are failing. Now, I kind of read ahead with some cases. The what was it? I think the Atlanta, Georgia governor tested positive. That just happened. Bolsonaro, the Aztec god of death from Brazil, supposedly has the virus. We will find a test tomorrow, which will reveal for sure whether it is securely positive or questionable. So stay tuned. There's a lot happening right now. Tomorrow should be a big day, and I'll see you all tomorrow.